Welcome back to Humans of Healthcare. I'm your host, Danny Mobley. This episode, I'm really excited to bring you Sal Cruz. Sal is a guy that I met years ago, but I was at a show, actually an association like Christmas dinner a few months ago, and Sal accepted an award, a Lifetime Achievement Award. And as he was walking up to get his award, one thing I noticed about Sal, which is really true to his character, he was walking with like a pimp limp. Like he strutted up there, and I was like, man, this guy looks good. And he got up there all suave. He got his award, and he started telling a story, a great story that was really emotional, heartfelt. You kind of got drawn into the guy, and so I thought, man, I got to get him on camera, and I want everybody else to feel what I felt that night watching Saul. So I think we captured the essence of him. He tells a lot of good stories from his days in the military. As a trainer of biomeds and imaging service technicians in our industry. He's just a good dude. And so I hope you'll watch this and smile. And if you don't know Sal, reach out. He's a guy that would love to hear from you. And thanks for watching, everybody. Sal. It's so good to meet you, Sal Cruz. You want to say your whole name? So I don't
Salvador.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a name that as a kid growing up, I really didn't like.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wanted to be a Jim, something cool.
A Jim.
A Jim or a Paul, something. It's Salvador, but I prefer Sal.
Okay, cool.
The only time I hear Salvador is when I was in trouble.
Yeah. Your mom? Yeah. So where are you from?
So I'm from El Paso, Texas.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I grew up there. Which is why I didn't join the Army.
Yeah.
Fort Bliss out there. I wanted to leave El Paso.
Yeah.
I wanted to go out there. Actually, I fell in love with the ships out of San Diego, California, because I got family in Santa Barbara. So
nice.
Yeah, I figured 22 and a half years in the Navy, I'd never served on a ship.
Wow, way to go. Wanted to be on the ship. You never made it.
Never made it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Man. So what was it like growing up for you? What heritage? How did that whole thing
go?
Well,
I grew up, I was very fortunate we come from humble means and stuff, but I never lacked a lot of support and love from the family, you know, and I actually, once I graduated in '85 from school, and I knew that my ceiling as far as athletics were concerned that was it, you know.
Yeah.
So I went to college, community college, El Paso Community College. After that, for a year and a half, and I was still playing basketball all over, anywhere I could play back then, you know, and. I was a scoring champ in 1985 for the city of El Paso.
Wow.
So nice, I know it's a long time ago, but I really loved playing basketball.
Sure.
But at the time, I really wanted to walk on with the minors there in El Paso. But that was not. Tim Hardaway came out the same year I did, '85, and he was a all-state Player of the Year for Chicago, so they were my chances. No, but I decided to sign up and do something with my life and join the Navy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, I started off as a corpsman, which was really, there was an agenda behind it, because even when I told my mom what I was going to be doing, she's like, "What? You can't even stand the sight of blood." So But it turned out to be the best decision that I made.
Oh,
you know?
Great, man. So it's like making decisions at that age that are so consequential. You know, you hope that young people know what they're doing and what they're getting into.
Right.
But you follow your heart, I think, sometimes. But strategically, what did you have in mind by becoming a corpsman?
So technically, I loved San Diego, and I wanted to be stationed at the hospital there at Balboa, a beautiful place, and I went to boot camp there, and I just loved San Diego so much, and my agenda was just to be a corpsman in a hospital, and that was it at the time.
Okay.
I didn't even know that corpsmen were assigned to the Marine Corps, the grunts, until till they changed my orders when I graduated Corps School, which was there in San Diego as well. They said, by the way, you're going to the Fleet Marine Force side of the house. And I'm like, what is that? And they're, well, you're going to the Marine Corps. And I was shocked. And I knew so I didn't even serve in a hospital.
Wow.
Yeah, I was sent out there as a young 18-year-old with the Marine Corps. But once I got there, I fell in love with it. And being the oldest, I'm the oldest of three siblings.
Okay, yeah.
And so my brother and my sister, but being the oldest, I always had a lot of responsibility.
Sure.
Put on me. And
sure.
I used to, so you're absolutely right, making decisions and stuff. So I knew that I needed to go do something with my life, and that was a perfect avenue for me, And
set an example for.
Yeah, because I knew that at that time I wasn't going to do anything in El Paso.
Yeah.
Being a border city, and like I said, I just didn't want to join the Army, and it's kind of ironic that my career would one day take that path, being with an Army unit.
Yeah. In
a different capacity, but nonetheless, yeah. So that really was a great decision that I made. You know? And I'll tell you this, my mom was so upset with me because I did not tell her when I was leaving to go to boot camp. And when they came to pick me up, they honked. Our apartment was facing the alley, and the recruiters came, they honked, and she was so upset with me that she locked herself in the restroom.
Oh, man.
And I could hear her crying, and she wouldn't come out to say goodbye.
Oh.
Yeah, so I just knocked on the door, and I said, I promise you I'm going to go make something of myself. And that was it, and so that, from a very young age, I learned that if you really put effort in anything that you want to invest in and be successful, I learned real quick that it was an opportunity for us, So, I mean, as an older brother, I wanted to set a good example for my sister and my brother, and but my whole life was based on succeeding, and having failure for me, going to the Navy and failure of any kind was just
never an option.
No, never.
It doesn't enter your mind, right?
It doesn't.
Yeah, you have you really have no choice to make it. In the case, I'm with you, man. I left Oklahoma City, same sort of thing. Like I had to, and I still feel that way to this day. And I was 18 when I left. How old were you?
I was 18.
Wow.
Well, I was 18.
Yeah. So compared to like today, in today's world, I don't see as many people in my world leaving home and taking on that responsibility of going away. It just feels like it's not something people do anymore. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's just feeling that way.
I see it.
Really?
Even with my kids. Yeah, I see it. But for us, I think it was a different time because being the oldest, I can tell you what I got for my senior graduation. my dad came to me and says, you don't live here for free anymore.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So you're going to have to contribute to the house. That's it. End of story.
I had the similar thing. I had a baseball scholarship to go away to play college. Otherwise, there's no way I could afford it, right? I grew up poor. But the thing that I saw throughout my life after that were friends, family members who would graduate. They get like $500 bills and cards. And I was I'm still kind of blown away with that. My thing was there was no money to be given, even from all my family. And so, I may have made a few dollars, like maybe $100 in total from graduating high school from, distant family members. But like you, I just had to go to work, That's congratulations. You did what you're supposed to do. Now go into the world and, make something of yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
You're right. Different world.
Different world. Yeah. Absolutely right. And I knew I wasn't going to get a scholarship offer. Yeah. I just knew, my ceiling. So I always put myself in situations where my junior year in high school, I promised my mom I was going to be the #1 leading scorer in El Paso.
Nice.
And I mean, the pressure that came with that, you know, but I got it done. You know, it's kind of funny because at the end of the day, her and my pop put the scrapbook together, and for me, it was just accomplishing that goal, you know, but I knew that my ceiling was set, and what am I going to do with the rest of my life, you know, and that's something that I didn't even tell them that I had gone and taken the ASVAB or anything like that. You know, they had no idea that I was going to enlist in the military. And it was tough because as the older brother, I wanted to be there for my brother and my sister, but I knew that in order for us I needed to set a good example for them to be able to thrive and exceed the social, you know, ceilings that people try to impose on you.
Absolutely.
You know? So,
yeah. Good for you, man.
Yeah, so that was the start.
Yeah.
That was the start.
It's a good start.
Yeah. So like I said, failure was the best thing that seeing her there at graduation when I got through boot camp. And to me, honestly, Navy boot camp was from a physical aspect, it was quite a joke because we didn't even do PT. I mean, I was so disappointed and stuff, you know, and stuff. But it was actually, I was just relieved. It was when I got to the Marine Corps and we go through another 6 weeks of training, what they call field medical service school, and you learn everything about the Marine Corps and how you're going to support your Marine Corps unit and stuff. And that was more challenging because it was on par with my fitness.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
I mean, so.
Yeah.
And
you're seeking a challenge. It sounds like you were wanting to test yourself.
I did. I always wanted to test myself because, you know, as a young kid, I got a real bad case of hepatitis.
Okay.
Right? And it really impacted my liver. And they told me that I was never going to be able to play sports again because I had a side effect and my body would just not build up to get the stamina and to deal with athletics. And I was really disappointed. I remember sitting there crying.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you know, I want to play sports. I played baseball too, you know, and so and that broke my heart. So I always try to set goals for myself that I knew I could achieve and or strive to achieve. So definitely that was something. And the Marines tested you immediately. They did physically. You know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that was something that humbled me, but yet it was so rewarding because I did all my training through them, and I went through mountain warfare training and warfare training in the jungles in the Philippines and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was really tested.
Yeah, no, that's what you wanted, right?
Yeah, exactly.
True challenge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It does exist in the world, and you found it.
I did, and you know, I always, if an individual, and I always feel like if you have somebody that has a goal, even with my 22-year-old now, I just tell them, you know, pursue something that you're going to be passionate about, you know, because I didn't have that choice immediately when I graduated, you know, and I'm not trying to rush you out of the house or anything, but get your education so nobody can use that against you, and also, you know, set your ceiling, you know, because you just never know, you know. Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot going on in our world right now, and I watch people who've accomplished extraordinary things, and I wonder about the mindset that they needed to have in order to get there. You know, whether you're a senator or a justice or a president or whatever in the world you decide you want to do, to set that lofty goal is really a strange thing to me. Like, and how do you get there if you don't know that you've got what it takes to go to where you want to go? Now, I don't think you have to know. A lot of kids that I talk to are like, I don't know what I want.
Correct.
And that's not what we're saying.
No.
It's just that you know internally that you've got whatever it takes to get you, whenever you decide what you want, you got what it takes internally to get you there, right?
Correct.
That's a big deal, I think.
Yeah, it is a big deal. And I know that I will probably get into this in a little bit, but during my presentation and my award, you heard me mention something about a promise, right? And I don't use that word very, very lightly. To me, it's significant because you got to have the 4 things for me from a promise is you got to have integrity, you got to have compassion, right? And you got to have commitment, and then you got to be able to make the sacrifice.
Yeah.
And if you have those 4, understanding those 4, then you can make a promise, right? You can definitely say, I'm going to,
Very well put.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I can
you're
make
qualified
a promise,
to make a promise,
Yeah,
right?
because you don't want to fail.
Sure.
And for me, I guess setting from a very young age, knowing that failure was not an option, so that translated over to quitting. Yeah. Once you quit something, because it's more difficult than what you thought it was going to be, then it becomes an easier behavior to mimic and say, I can quit again and again, again. But if you reverse that and you say, I can succeed,
Yep.
it's quitting, it was not an option.
Right.
You know, it was not an option.
Right.
And that's one thing that I learned. You know, I grew up in a very interesting community, but I never really understood what Brotherhood was all about until I got to the Marine Corps. And when you prove yourself as a corpsman that you're willing to die for the Marines, I never really understood what that meant, having them die for you, and they will. Once they embrace you as part of their family and they bestow you with the title of Devil Doc, you know, that's what we all strive to
That's
be
what
called.
you wanted, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then that is a true brotherhood, you know, of understanding these people are going to protect me and I'm here to protect them. And I think that resonated a lot with me, because playing sports, you know, you want to build that camaraderie and stuff like that, but you really take it to another level when you get into that situation where they know, you know, somebody's got your 6, you know, and you know, so that's where I was going through with that, because a promise. And I remember my dad always told me, don't ever make a promise that you can't keep, especially to your kids.
Sure.
Because they'll never let you forget it. You know?
That's true.
And I never did. You know, and that always resonated with me and keeping me in line with not using that word.
Well, you know, the thing that I took away, because I went through an academy, you know, and had a police department brethren that I felt that feeling for, right? I wish that on everybody, because when you're willing to lay down your life for somebody, and you, like you said, you know that they're willing to lay down their life for you.
Correct.
It brings a different purpose to your life, and you feel. To me, I was here, and until I felt that, then I went up to here. And the way I felt about other human beings, it changed my intensity of my relationships with everybody in my life at that point. And then when you're called to, you know, act on this thing to protect your brothers and sisters, I've never felt a rush like that before in my life, you know, and that's just being a cop. You know, I know soldiers got, you know, I'm curious your thoughts about what it's like to make that pledge and then have the opportunity to actually go into a theater where you're called upon to look out for each other.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and you're absolutely right. And I think that when you find something that's bigger than you and you're willing to make the sacrifice and ultimate sacrifice for those that share that same level of commitment, you know, it's tough. And I'll share with you that's one of the toughest adjustments, leaving the military to the civilian world.
Oh, very good call.
You know,
good call.
Because I realized, you'll have, just like we have here, we have military members that serve, you know, but it's not the same as being in the military, because you understand that there's a common goal, right? And so what you know, mission, if you substitute promise for a mission, it's really basically the same. Right. What are we going to get? How are we going to get that done? Right. Well, you got to have the integrity to do it, and you got to have the compassion. Right. See what I mean? So I align myself to those parallels, you know, because it's important, and I think that it warrants it. And perhaps we can go over, like, you know, my tour in Afghanistan, which was not a Biomed tour at all. You know, that was a different mission altogether.
You're a soldier.
But being committed to do that is something that, because if we don't, you're always going to need people to do that for our country. And I tell you this, I share this because I've been all over the world. And we live in the best country in my that I would die for, in a heartbeat. I would sign up again, tomorrow if I could do it all over again, because I've been all over the world. And sure, there's some people that might not feel that way, but I can tell you from my perspective, you can be whatever you want to be here without being, I'm not saying it's going to be easy,
right?
But nothing that's worth having is ever easy.
Completely agree. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I wholeheartedly believe that.
I do too.
You can't have that, and it all boils down to even me taking this position here. I'm not very, very blessed that Cook Children's allowed me to serve in this capacity. But my first question, I remember when I was being interviewed, I went through 4 interviews, but when I first interviewed, I said, I'm not going to waste your time. I just got to ask you one question. Do you have core values, and do you really adhere to your core values?
Sure.
Because if you don't, then I'm not the right person for you. You
Nice.
know what I mean?
Nice.
I mean, that was, and obviously they do. I'm here, you know, and and it's been fantastic, because if you don't have a strong foundation, everything else is just, not on solid ground.
Well, I like that you asked that. What I mean is that I've seen people go into interviews and they don't even get to that part of the conversation about the values. And one thing from an entrepreneur's perspective that I would look for is somebody that's interested in understanding what we're all about before they can say yes to it, right? And you just came out and sort of, to me, it's like you took command of the situation and said, look, this is important to me, without having them prompt. And how many young people know to go into a situation like that and say, hey, there's things that mean a lot to me.
Correct.
And I want to make sure I align with you, and they have the confidence of equal stature, right? Like, you've been to war, you've had all these experiences where you have self-confidence, and like I do, this is business. It's not the real thing. It's not,
Correct.
Theater of war. It's not being on the streets and, getting shot at or chasing people. And, when you're sitting at the table with somebody, there's no threat. So that few seconds of confidence for somebody, young people like that we hope watch this, there's only a few seconds that you need.
Sure.
But just conjure it up and, say what is on your heart. Maybe be vulnerable a little bit and just be like, hey, like you did, what's important to you guys? Because I want to make sure it aligns with me. And the people at the other side of the table look at you a lot differently when you lead that part of the conversation, in my experience.
No, absolutely. Okay. You're absolutely right. Because here's how I translate it. If they did not respond appropriately, then I know that there's not going to be any empowerment.
Right.
To my position.
Good point.
Right. And so, hey, I'm not going to waste your time.
Yeah.
If I'm going to commit my life to completing your promise, right? Because that's the Cook way. We promise.
Love that.
That if we're not going to commit to that, you're not going to empower me to be able to do what I have to do to get us there.
Yeah.
And so I'm not. It's just it just told me right off the bat before I pack up my stuff and relocate from here to Fort Worth, and it's I'm not going to waste your time. And luckily they were gracious enough to afford me this capability and this position, and they supported me 100%. We can't do that without aligning with the organization and stuff, but I know it's in fundamental, right? And so what I do with my, like any employee that I have, I don't know if you've ever heard of a WIFM.
No.
Okay, so a WIFM is what's in it for me, right? So everybody's got that inside of them, right? And when I interview them, I ask them, what's your WIFM, right? What is it that you want to accomplish? Because if you don't want to be, enhance your skill set, if you want to learn how to be in this field and work in this field, then probably this is not a right fit for you.
Sure.
And if you establish that from the get-go, it kind of allows you to measure how committed they're going to be to serve the community, because that's what we do, right?
Sure.
I mean, and so you can't expect them. I think that, sure, there's vulnerability that there might be exposing, but at the same time, it's something that you need to, and it comes from the military. So what does the military do when they get you? They tear you down, and then they build you back up.
Yeah.
Right. And so those components stick with me, to be able to say, hey, what is it going to do? or what is it going to take for you to commit to being a team player and learning your skill? You know, and I tell you this because the reason I'm so passionate about it, and I know it's hard to come across, but this career field saved my life. Okay, because I know in my speech I mentioned how I got into this career field, you know, and that was a complete a blessing from God. You know, we were bringing some guy back from at the Gulf War at the time, and then I went to Camp Pendleton Hospital. We dropped him off, and I saw a guy pushing this portable X-ray, and I said, "Hey, I saw a caduce on it," and they used to wear these blue coveralls and stuff. And I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "Well, I'm testing the batteries on this thing, the driving." And I said, "Well," and he said, "But I see a caduce on your collar." And he says, "Yeah, I'm a corpsman." So that day, I said, I want to do what you do. And he walked me that day. He walked me to this senior chief, and you know, for the life of me, I wish I could remember his name. But he sat down and wrote me a recommendation, signed it, and he changed my life forever. You know, because I figured, okay, at the time, I wasn't worried that I was going to go to war, right? We all signed. I was at Camp Pendleton at the time, right?
Sure.
So what is this going to entail? But at the same time, I was so scared because I had been removed from the unit that I had trained with. So I was assigned to 3rd Battalion, 9th Marines. That was my family. They went off. They deployed, and I was not. Yeah. I stayed. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and so when I got picked up for the program, I'll never forget. They called me into my office, my senior enlisted leader there, my senior chief, and I knew it was something bad. At the time, I thought it was bad because he said 4 or 5 explicitives before he said my last name, you know, and I'm like, I'm in trouble. And what I had done, because at that time I was working in administration, I put my packet in the middle, and at that time during the Gulf War, we had operators coming through. They wanted their pay. We typed up all their dependent forms, their duty, combat action pay, their jump pay, and I snuck my packet in the middle of this stack of paper that my E6 had to sign, and I know he just went and signed everything off. Yeah. And next thing you know, a month and a half later, I get picked up for this school, and boy, I never heard the end of it. But at the end of the day, he looked at me, he says, "Don't fail. Don't come back. Yeah. I don't want to see you here. Come back as a corpsman."
Well, and little did he know, you just left El Paso with that same attitude. Right?
No, yeah, absolutely.
You left your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you weren't going to fail. But just, I mean, I love that story. So he's just signing away.
He just signed away.
And you snuck it in there, and he just signed it.
Oh, yeah, because I figured there's no way that they're going to send me to this school. We're entering the Gulf War. I'm at Camp Pendleton, that they're going to pick me up, and they did, and he changed my life forever. And that's why I'm so passionate, because I'll tell you one thing, even as a corpsman, right, we're trained. We were in the fields of the Philippines, and the villagers gather around you because they know you're doing training there, and they provide you food and stuff, and they'll always trade you MREs. Back then, because believe it or not, that's how I found out about Al Qaeda. Even back then, back in '88, they would give up our MREs for them, but they would cook for us. And there was this pregnant woman, and she had a baby in the field, and we wound up. It was breached, and we wound up performing CPR on this little girl. And as a 19-year-old, you know, I'm sitting here going, wow, I can do this. You know, we brought her back to life. Sure. Doing CPR on a newborn, I tell you, is challenging enough. But we did it. And I realized, hey, you know, I could probably do this. But even that, I did not want to be an EMT. Yeah. Right? I did not. I wanted to be able to support my family somehow in a more broader capacity. And sure. I just couldn't be an EMT. And I didn't want to pursue any more medical programs. So that to me was a lifestyle change. And you know, for me, at that time, the Navy was offering $20,000 for completing the class and then re-enlisting for another 6 years. So I capitalized on that, you know.
Oh, sure.
So I saw the value in that, and I saw immediately, I can support my family doing this, you know. And I tell you, I've never regretted it.
Sure.
I've never regretted it. It's been so impactful. And maybe that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I see a lot of these younger technicians come through and they make a commitment or an investment, right, of whatever, whether they approach it through a student loan or, you know, their own money, and they're working and stuff. And if they're really serious about gaining the ROI on their investment, they really can do it in this field.
Sure.
You know, they really can. I
Sure.
know we there's a lot to discuss and bring to the table, but they can do it.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I'm so passionate, because I don't regret. That was the best decision that I ever made for me.
Well, there's a lot of young people who watch this, and I'm curious, like, if you can, what's the advantage from a pay scale perspective, moving up in the ranks in our industry? How high can you get from a pay perspective? Can you get into 120,000 range? Is that a possibility for somebody that takes the right path?
At my level, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So director level and
Yes.
above, you can get
Absolutely.
in? Okay,
Yes.
cool.
And I just have a bachelor's degree.
Okay, great.
Right.
Great, yeah.
I
that's
have a
good to know.
bachelor's degree. The most important thing to remember is that there are still some of us out there
Yeah.
that are resources, right? Your program here is a fantastic avenue for them to learn.
Right.
Not every, you know, a lot of times, and that was ingrained in me as a young technician when I was growing up in this career field. I trusted people that had tenure, right? But I never took their word for 100%.
Right.
If you told me that this table does this or this unit does this, I would take it to the next level and try to see if it really did that or
Yeah.
if it really didn't. You know, the unfortunate thing is when you have people in this career field that said, hey, I've been doing this for 18 years, and you sit back and go, well, man, you did it wrong for 18 years. You know, maybe if there was an opportunity for you to really focus. And so that was the beauty of growing up in a career field. But yes, it's available.
Yeah.
The commitment and the value is there for your career to accomplish. You know, and whatever ceiling, you might go above this level. If you get your master's, you might go into administration. You might get in the C-suite. You know what I mean?
A lot of people do that.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to go back on is to your story is, I'll back up. I interviewed a guy who was retiring as an HTM director, Baylor Scott and White, and this was just like 2 years ago, and he told a story about an angel. He was in a similar position in the military. He was loading a bus, and this was like in the late 70s. And there was like an old E6, like you picture the guy with the cowboy hat on type thing. And he's like, this guy, he's like, and the person I was talking to on video said, I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I had to re-enlist. And there was just at that moment in time, God presented an angel, this old E6 that just told me, hey, go into Biomed. He gave him the number to look out for. And you just mentioned an opportunity too, where you had the courage to say, hey, what is that? That's interesting to me. But that guy at that moment took you from that portable, I assume a portable x-ray machine, and introduced you to the right people, right? And then now, I look at those people as angels that came at the right time in your life. That sounds like
absolutely right. Yeah, that opportunity. And also another thing that I wanted to share with you, I'll share this story with you. So when I was stationed in the Bay Area, you know, I used to work for the Fleet Hospital Support Office, and what that was the Navy at the time. Yeah, they had this big warehouse facility. Wasn't even on base. Yeah, and what they were self-sustaining hospitals. So you imagine a cargo ship, and they stacked these hospitals. Wow. On these containers, right? And they traveled around the world. So I got the opportunity to be in there, right? And the team that was there really never took advantage of the opportunity to learn. So these big cargo ships would come into Bay in the San Francisco. At that time, it was Oakland, and they would unload, and you pop up the Connex box, and it's an X-ray system. Wow. They had a fire department, they had a police department. They were self-sustaining, so the Navy could deploy this hospital anywhere around the world. That's cool, right? Yeah. And so we learned a lot we would just take stuff apart, and put it back together, right? Just the curiosity of doing what we do. But I'll share this story with you. at that time, I played a lot of softball. Okay, and I was good enough, and I figured, you know what, I'm going to play softball. I wanted to play softball for the Navy, and I said, you know what, if I'm good enough, and I think back then I was really, fit at about 225, just ready to play softball, and we played a lot of tournaments, and this particular tournament, there was a lot of all Navy players that were playing on the softball in this tournament itself. So I wanted to kind of gauge my talent against them to see if I even could have a chance to go and try out for All Navy. And you talk about this camaraderie and all these friends and stuff like that. Well, I had a lot of friends on my team and stuff like that. And I was on second base, and the guy hit a single to right field, and I'm moving. I could really move, and I'm moving, and I'm coming home. And the catcher for the other team must have weighed like maybe 125, 130 pounds, soaking wet. And I thought to myself, they're going to throw the ball home, and I could ram this guy over, right, and plow him. At that time, they didn't have a rule against that.
Sure.
If you were in the path, you were going to get rammed over. But I said, I can't do that to this guy. So instead, I slid. And when I slid, I grabbed the plate. My cleat completely snapped my ankle, right? I had a tib fib, and I had a dislocation.
Wow.
Right, and so they sent me to San Francisco General, and then they patched me enough they hadn't reset my foot just yet. Once they reset it, they sent me to Oak Knoll Hospital in Oakland. But I'll never forget this, and I'm there in my bed, and I'm thinking to myself, what's going to happen to my career? Because if I'm not deployable anymore, they're going to kick me out. And at that time, the Navy was in a big they had a big effort to try to kick people out.
Okay.
Right? So I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So I'm sitting, and I want to, who the first person that went to visit me in that room wasn't my teammates. It was the catcher for the other team.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a great story.
And he came up to me and says, man, thank you for not taking me out.
Yeah.
And that proved to me that no matter who you think your friends really are and stuff like that,
wow,
you'd be amazed at how, this young cat just enlightened me tremendously, because I thought to myself, my God, he beat my wife at the time there to the hospital. So it really showed me that he really appreciated me not taking him out and what I did to do that. And that opened my eyes. And I thought to myself, if the Navy kicks me out tomorrow, at least I have a job that I can rely on, that I can still support my family on. You know what I mean? And that was my safety net.
Yeah.
So I was able to, of course, I went through a lot of rehab, got over that, and stuff. But that showed me that my investment and what I had committed to was going to pay off one way or another, and that's why maybe I'm so passionate about this job, is because that, to me, if you can imagine, your failure was not an option for me.
Sure. Right.
So being able not to walk straight again was not an option. I had to do it, and I had to do it real fast, and because I had to go back to the advanced course for me to be a true biomed back in the Navy days, Sure. And that taught me a great lesson. But the commitment and the passion to this career field that's why it might sound hokey, but I can tell you that I'm passionate about it.
Yeah.
And, as an instructor, because I know I mentioned that in the speech. Yeah. So I taught, right? And I learned from every class that I taught. These students challenged my knowledge every day, but I loved it. But my goal for that specific class was to maybe motivate and inspire. I wanted to inspire all 23, 24 students, but I know if I could get to one or two of them and just inspire them, plant that seed of wanting to drive and be the best that they can be, that was my goal. Yeah. And then that's, I really loved my tour there at Shepherd when I taught, and I had great mentors like the Frank Cabreras of the world and Troy Scotts of the world. They were my mentors. But I learned a lot from teaching these kids in the future of this career field, and that was so memorable to me because I wanted to change that world at that level,
Sure,
it's to inspire. And it was real nice because once I realized that I did impact some of my students, because once they moved the schoolhouse to San Antonio, a lot of the Air Force and Navy and Army students were instructors now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they bought in on that passion and to make an impact on this career field.
Sure. Like that's where rubber meets road. You can share, your passion with other people. If they pick it up, they take it forward. I mean, that's the biggest flattering thing to me is when people that I've come in contact with will take passion and pass it on to other people and pay it forward. I always wanted to do that for others, is take something and pass it forward when I could. But, as you're growing up and you don't have the means, a lot of times you can't do that. You're struggling just to get your own, right, and trying to make it yourself.
Right.
But it sure is, it's a good feeling when you can pass it along the way, too.
Absolutely.
When you're training people.
I can tell you're doing it with this forum.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, that's what it was intended to for healthcare executives. I feel storytelling is a powerful medium, because people might see something in themselves in the story that you tell. And how we got here with you was you had an acceptance speech for winning an award, a local award in the association for North Texas, which, for whatever you think about the local associations, I think they play a powerful role in our industry and have maybe the biggest voice. It's local, but it's still, they influence people. And you won an award, like an all-time achievement award. What was the name of the award? Do you remember something all-time achievement?
It was just a lifetime achievement award, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow, it was amazing. And so when you got up and you told your story, you went into some of the things here and other things I'm sure we'll talk about, which are, experiences here at the hospital that, drive you, people who know you, and how important it is that you can impact people. It's like one of the things you're trying to do is pass it forward and pay it forward, and so I was taken by that, and I wanted other people to hear. And the luxury of this platform is that when I see a story I love, I can show other people that story. I
appreciate it. This is a great forum.
Thanks,
and finding resources is, I think there's a very distinct awareness that young engineers, biomeds have to have, and that I'm not saying that there's going to be challenges. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no doubt. But there are resources out there like this forum and all the people that have paved the way for them to embrace it and pass it on.
Yeah.
Right. Even if they don't decide to stay in this career field. Right.
Yeah.
And so with me in my lifetime, I have what was imprinted on me by being a corpsman.
Right.
Right. Understanding that. Right. And then I took it to the next level and realized there's got to be some type of ascension and build up in your life because that's where your goals are at, right?
Sure.
I mean, whether it be spiritual or professionally or whatever it is,
right?
It's got to be there. And there's some of us that still advocate for that. The resources are out there, and there are genuine people, that really want to commit to their commitment. In their careers.
It's those that we try to reach, I think, whether you're in, the biomed field or any healthcare field. But one quote that got me, and I think hopefully it will resonate with you, is by Robert Brault. And Robert Brault said, we're kept from our goals, not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal. And I thought about my life. I thought about, wow, I haven't striven high enough for where I want to go, right, in my life. And so I end up these places. It wasn't because of any other reason. It wasn't an obstacle so much. It's just I had a lesser goal than what I should have had the whole time. And if you don't know where you can go and how to get there, sometimes people just go to where they think they belong.
Sure.
But it takes people, in my case, it took others seeing in me certain things only got me to here. But when I saw it in myself, I was able to go much, much higher. But it started with that quote. It was, we're kept from our goals not by obstacles. It's just we control it.
Absolutely.
If we choose to go lesser, then that's where we'll end up.
Absolutely.
If we make a choice at all, that's a good thing, because then you can at least have this idea about where you want to be. But if you don't make a choice about what you want to do with your life, you're going to end up someplace, and it's probably not where you ultimately want to be. And I think along the way in your story, what I love about it is that there were certain moments where you had to make a choice, right? And you made the choice for yourself to go here versus just letting the tides take you wherever they were going to take you.
Absolutely.
Right? You could have ended up in a way different circumstance.
Way different.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely right. And there's going to be a lot of naysayers too.
Oh, there is.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people that are going to try to encapsulate you and put you in what they perceive as your place.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah, your box, like where they think your box is. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Like and I don't.
Yeah.
For that purpose, I'm trying to be conscious about that, right? Like, I work with some really talented people, and I've been around talented people in my career. You have too, and the one thing that I feel called to do is to stay out of their way.
Right.
Just
Right.
let them do what they are going to do, and I say let them. I'm not Jesus. I'm not.
Right.
Like just. People are going to do what they need to do, and if you can get out of their way, a lot of times is the right answer, I think.
Right.
No,
and you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because learning, even at my level, if you don't learn every day, I think you miss out.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, just like my students, I'll share this story with you because when I was a student, when I was an instructor at the schoolhouse, I had this boss, and I wasn't his favorite. I get it. And this individual would write to me in emails, and at that time I didn't know what it meant. That's because he would write to me in capital red letters. Every message that he sent to me was in capital red letters. And I'm like, what is that? What is this guy? They can't change the font on it. And then somebody told me, hey, he's yelling at you.
Oh,
that's what it means.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. But he was always threatening me. Teaching imaging was so special to me because I was teaching with at the time, my Yoda, who taught me imaging at the schoolhouse at Shepherd, Mr. Strawbridge, God rest his soul, and to me being in that room, being considered a colleague, was just an honor for me. So, I know that I was doing right because he would sit in the back of my classes and listen to my lectures, listen to my lesson. And
how cool.
And that was such a moment for me. But anyway, my boss at the time said, hey, and he would call me sometimes in his office. He'd tell me, you know what? I think I'm going to move you from imaging. I think I'm going to take you out. And I don't know if that was, what at a personal level or anything. But my response to him was, you brought me here to teach. Mm-hmm. You send me wherever you want.
Yeah.
Because my passion's not going to change, right? I'll teach these block one. I'll teach them how to use a screwdriver. I don't care.
I got you.
That's what you brought me here to do, is to teach.
Sure.
Now, but it never happened.
Yeah.
And part of that was because of when the students turned in their feedback on critiques for the class, they would always be in my favor, you know. And that's what, I taught the same block for the entire time that I was there, you know. Yeah. But my lesson to me was people are always going to try to put you in your place.
Yeah.
But it's like respect, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the Band of Brothers.
Oh yeah.
When he's on the Jeep and the German officer's turning his troops over.
Yeah.
And he, the captain passes by, and now Major Winters is a major and he's still a captain.
Yeah.
And he just forgets to salute him, right?
Yeah.
And he says, hey, we salute the rank, not the man, right?
Yeah.
And so when respect is warranted, it's warranted. You can't deny it, right? And I'm a true believer in that because, if you're committed, it's funny, you see all these people, they commit to what their goals are, and that's what the WIFMs are for, right? Because that way you always have something to remind them of, hey, remember when you told me your WIFM was right here? Well, how have you impacted that, and how can we get you to continue to do that?
Sure.
It's a race, right? Not everybody's going to When I took over this department, everybody wanted to go to training. Everybody raised their hand. I want to go to training. I want to go to training. I said, great. I appreciate the feedback, but I'm going to show you that not everybody is ready to go to training, right? So when do these schools become available? They become available in the winter. And then nobody wants to go. Right. Nobody wants to come in. I say, hey, what happened to all those hands that got raised up, right? Yeah. So I test them, and so I make them own their decisions based on the fact that this is what you told me you wanted to do. You want to get trained? Yeah. Well, this is the only opening that we have. Now, the fact that the organization is willing to cover that, that should tell you that they're backing us up. So that's totally how I sifted it out. Everybody wants to go to training. Yeah. Well, we'll see, because it's not always at the most opportune time, but you're right. When the opportunity is there, you have to be prepared to make the decision. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and you're right. I think going back to the schoolhouse where, you had somebody who was trying to potentially take something away from you. Right. But it wasn't taking things away from you. And I think once some people feel like realize that they don't have the power over you that they thought that they had, that traditionally they may have had with other people, they tend to leave you alone. But you got to stick up for yourself a little bit in the right ways. And it's sometimes not everybody's trained on the right ways. They don't get these lessons through life. But your point's right on to me. First of all, nobody's any better than anybody else, right? Correct. But, he maybe had rank or whatever, but, you were there to teach, and he didn't realize that. He couldn't bring you down by what curriculum you taught. You're still going to impact people. Absolutely. Right? That's amazing.
Whether block 1 or block 11,
that's
wherever.
Right. That's right.
This episode is brought to you by Downtime Trace.
In the world of medical imaging equipment, downtime is costly. Finding the right service options and determining if they are available shouldn't drain energy from medical professionals. Every day, healthcare workers face unique anxieties. It may seem small to some, but not knowing which local service experts are available, their qualifications if they're competent, when they are available is an unnecessary energy robber. With Downtime Trace, you can easily book local service technicians and get real-time notifications on your phone, similar to those you're accustomed to from mobile apps in your personal life. Once on site, service technicians capture a video of the problem they observe, diagnose the service needed, and provide a clear service plan with an estimated labor and parts costs and completion time. Familiar technology matched with decades of experience. Track parts and service progress and get the right updates when it makes the most sense. Once the service is completed, view comprehensive service data and rate their performance. Technicians gain greater autonomy by choosing independent jobs, while Downtime Trace ensures they receive payments within days compared to the many months that typical payment terms take. Downtime Trace ensures seamless communication, better and faster compensation for independent technicians, and complete transparency in service management. Download Downtime Trace now and take control of your medical equipment service.
So I'll kind of expand a little bit on how that translates for this younger generation. Yeah. Because here's where I'm going with this. And from the same example, when they come to work for a hospital, it's so important for them to engage with their customers. Sure. To understand their workflows. When you're dealing with a nurse that's on a 12-hour shift, they've just been asked to extend, COVID presented this case, to do extra hours, They're really bogged down. They really need support. And when you buy into that, get to know your customer. Yeah. So then at that level, you have a way, that's the autonomy that biomeds have, right? You have a way to impact your environment, regardless of what your boss might not be doing for you. Yeah. You have the ability to impact, because once that they see that value in you, I can assure you that when they go to the nurse committee or the all these different committees, they're gonna say, hey, you know what? So-and-so did this for me, and I can count on them to do this. Now your boss is completely out of the loop. Ownership of your world takes place. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Totally. So you can make excuses to say, oh, my boss keeps me down. And maybe that might be the case, but you own your world. That's right. If you put me in charge of if you put me in charge of ventilators, right?
Yeah.
Own ventilators.
Yeah.
Be the subject matter expert in ventilators, whatever the modality is.
Yeah.
Because once you own it,
Yeah.
respect is warranted. It can never be taken away.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's the thing that I loved about this career field was I own my environment, you know, and I own it. So yeah, this boss might not like me.
Yeah.
He's going to threaten me to send me down to block 1, but you know what? I'm passionate about teaching anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, man.
So I own it.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's your race.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
your race.
you know,
Don't
and-
let anybody run it for you.
Absolutely.
Because it's the only one you're going to get. The other thing, like investors as an entrepreneur, this is still playing. Ownership is everything. When people are going to give money to a company, they're looking at the founder and they're saying, okay, is this person going to own this thing, right? And they can tell pretty quick whether you are or aren't. And then when you're in leadership in a company, you're looking for people to take ownership all the way down the ranks to say, I'm that person. And a lot of young folks don't realize what we're looking for from them, right? And you just hit on one is, what's this person's attitude, their behaviors? We can work on technique all day long, but
Right.
if their attitude is one of owning it, right, then that's what we're looking for because we can work with that. Somebody that's going to have resilience built in, and you know all those things that make successful business people are going to make a successful tech. It's the same stuff within that person, I think, that's going to make the person go to the places that they want to go. And I'm also reminded of, like, you know, people who live in paradise. I always wonder, do they ever get sick of paradise? Right? When you walk out, can you be grateful for living in paradise every day, right? And I think about our field. There are a lot of people who come to our field who think, man, this is the greatest thing. And if that's all that drives them all the time, it won't matter if they're working on ventilators or in the OR, or on imaging equipment. They're just going to be happy that they get to work in their paradise, right? So it goes back to the individual again, like you're saying, right? You take ownership. But if this is your paradise, don't forget that. Don't forget, just because you're in the environment every day, don't forget that this is still your paradise.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Well, you know, and it's a great point, you know, that you bring across, because here's, I'll share something. When I did missions in Afghanistan, you know, we would go out and we did 99 missions in Afghanistan, you know, and when we would go out on a mission, my team, we were a 4-man team assigned to the 10th Mountain Rangers out there. When we would come back, my team would always, when we would come back to get good chow, you know, they would always go for the steak and the, you know, whatever. And believe it or not, I just wanted one bologna sandwich.
Wow. Yeah.
And they would ask me, Chief, why bologna? You know, it's like, you know what? I'll eat a steak and lobster when we make it out of here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great point.
I'll eat a steak and lobster when we leave this place.
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
We're all together.
Sure.
Right. I'll buy the steak and lobster. Right.
Yeah.
But for right now, you know, when I come back from, we're out there for days without showering or surviving, that bologna sandwich to me is the best sandwich that I
totally
can enjoy, man. So it goes right in line with what you said, you know. Don't forget that we, and I was stationed in Hawaii, so I really understand that, right?
Yeah.
And so to your point, you know, believe it or not, I was stationed in Hawaii and I never got to go on Aloha Friday. So Aloha Friday is like when they say, you got Friday off, go. Never. I always worked.
Yeah.
You know, so I always figured, you know, I'm in Hawaii. It's a paradise, right? But I never get Aloha Friday because we're always working. I used to do PMs on the subs out there. You know, I used to do PMs for the SEAL teams that we had out there. You know what I mean? So I always involved myself and tried to be a better support biomed, you know?
Yeah.
So I would, and everybody would go off on a happy hour and I'd be like, no, you know, I'll take that extra job or whatever. But you're right, you know, sometimes you got to step back and be in the moment, right? And understand, hey, and that's what my message to anybody that is invested their time and effort in this career field is, make it pay off for you.
Sure.
You know, make it pay off for you because you invested that time.
Yeah.
Funding, you know, make it pay off.
Yeah.
In some way or fashion, make it pay off, or let it be, as you said, something that steps up to a better goal that you want to get into.
Yeah, yeah. Know where you're going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that we, you know, especially you in your role, you get the opportunity to show people what this is. And That's why we talk about money sometimes. I mean, the generation coming behind us, they're concerned about that, and they don't know. And in our generation, we didn't talk about it enough. It was kind of taboo to talk about money. My mom would always say it was rude to talk about money. So I grew up in that environment, right? So it's different now with Gen Zers and those folks that are coming behind us. If you don't talk about money comfortably, they think something's wrong. They don't feel like it's comfortable, and something may be off. So like, I'm still learning how to do that, but on these podcasts that we do, we try to tell people what the opportunities are. We don't want them to be in the dark. Some of them know, but it's still nice to hear and have that be reinforced that, this guy took this path to get here, and, he's able to make a living that is, good for him and where he wants to be in life. And so maybe they set their goal there. I want to make $140,000 and I want to be a director. And, I've seen Sal's path and I can do the military. So they get these ideas, and these are the most watched are the ones where we talk about the path to getting from where they are to where they, people might want to go. And it's a real clear linear path for them. Like, that story makes sense. I can buy into that story, even though there'll be, challenges along the way. Like, there's still a path for me there, So it's kind of funny how that, like, we have through Humans of Healthcare, these stories that I never thought would, but every day somebody's watching it. Every day, something from years ago, they're just watching it, because that was the draw. Is it simplistic sort of? Oh, I can see a path for myself there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, when you served on the force, right? Did you ever question yourself? Hey, like you said, I'm willing to die for this person. But any time in your thought process did you think, well, I'm not going to do it for Tom because he makes more money than I do?
No.
See what I mean?
No.
So there's a commonality there, right?
Totally.
And when we're accountable to each other, that's the focus, right? There's two things from a biomedical perspective. We all know personality conflict, right? And being introverts, right? They start to silo their little benches and build their own little castle around their bench and stuff like that. That's all well and good. But if you don't have full comprehension of being accountable to somebody else, then you're not going to succeed.
Totally agree.
Right? Because then you're setting up more barriers for yourself. Right? Oh, you can blame everybody else if you want to, but the reality is this. Look, did I like everybody I served with? Absolutely not.
Right.
But there was a common goal. We brought back to the mission. Did my team in Afghanistan get along all the time? No. You know what? But it was me, my lieutenant, who was an academy grad. They were very young when we went to combat. But I was a seasoned veteran. I had been in 19 years already. And from a challenge perspective, I could whoop them all in PT, anything. Except maybe Scotty was a fast runner. I was like, I can't run that fast, but I'll stick with you 100%. But I had to prove to them that I was capable of leading them into succeeding in Afghanistan in our mission, right? Biomeds sometimes put more barriers on themselves because they have a personality conflict, and they make it more about the personality conflict than they do about the mission or the goal. Right? So that's hopefully something that people pick up on, because when you're accountable to somebody, then you don't have to worry about, well, I'm picking up his or her slack because they don't do their job or anything like that. That'll sift out.
That will.
That sifts out. You know what I mean?
Every time.
And unfortunately, the negativity is the cancer that infiltrates and makes that shop or that department the ineffective support structure that we're all wanting to avoid, right? I mean, so I think that for this younger generation, I know it's tough because my wife tells me, God bless her, she's finishing her degree. She tells me, these kids, they don't look at you in the eye anymore, and stuff like that. And I said, well, it's just this generation, their eyes are fixed on this little device that provides all their insight in their phone, and it's not hard to get hooked on the phone. But in our world, it's so important to be engaging. And I think that if you don't round for effect, if you don't see if you don't go around and go into our hematology, oncology department and see these young faces with cancer, and that doesn't motivate you to do the best that you can do, then you're not rounding for effect.
Right.
That's what your purpose is. You know what I mean? And if you don't do that, if you miss out on that, you just don't belong in this career field. I mean, straight and simple.
Sure.
You know,
Totally
because and when I hear team members come and tell me, well, I'm going to go move, I'm going to go across the street or go to a bigger facility. Hey, good on you, man. Because, you know, me growing up in the military, every 3 to 4 years, we moved somewhere else. So it wasn't uncommon for me. As a matter of fact, I expected.
Yeah.
But if you make that decision to move to take a better salary or whatever, make it pay off for you, but go do great things over there.
Sure.
Because that's contagious too.
Sure.
You know what I mean? The positive energy is contagious too.
Yep.
And when the people realize that you bring it without any type of hook or any agenda,
Right.
then they realize, hey, this person is real generous. You know, man, I'm going to stay late. I'll share this story with you because when my time in the Marine Corps in Hawaii ended, right, the Marines didn't have nothing for me to do. That was just the fact. The logistics side, and I really didn't prefer logistics units with the Marine Corps. So they said, hey, it's a DOD tour. You're going to finish the rest of your tour in the Navy side of the house. And I remember that the shop there, the guys did not get along.
No.
Did not get along at all. They had issues with each other and stuff. And I remember sitting at my chief's. I walked in and he goes, listen, he's a real good friend of mine, and Jim Schilling. And he looked at me and he said, listen here, you know, I'm letting you come into my shop, and I'm telling you what kind of boss I am. If you're expecting a pat on the back all the time and attaboys, I'm not that type of leader. And I said, that's good with me, Chief. You know, you put me wherever you want to put me, and I'm here to do the rest of my time.
Awesome.
So what I started doing, I was a young E5, you know, what I started doing is I would buy donuts for the shop, right? And just leave them there, and they really enjoyed donuts, you know, and then they started to mingle with each other and stuff like that. And it's funny because when I got there at 4:00, they're like at the start of a race, they're ready to take off, right? I went in the back and I inventoried their whole parts up a shelf and stuff like that, you know, and next thing you know, 4:15, 4:20, they're still sitting around there, you know, and just that dynamic of saying, hey, you know, I'm not forcing you to eat a donut, I'm not forcing you to have coffee, you know, but that changed the whole dynamic in the shop where they were actually wanting to be there, you know, they were actually, so it is contagious.
Great point.
You know what I mean? It is
story.
contagious.
Yeah.
You know, if you bring the right energy,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and I really wanted to gauge to see there was some senior guys in there, and I really wanted to tap into their knowledge.
Yeah.
That was my agenda. I
Sure.
really wanted to say, hey, well, tell me about this system or whatever.
That's great.
You know,
That's great.
but it's contagious.
Yeah.
You know, and I think people just need to be aware that their environment is totally controlled by them.
Well, I'll tell you this. So, you know, I just started this venture. I'm an entrepreneur now, and what's happening to me is I have to go get energy to give it. But I will tell you that I believe that there's nothing that we can't accomplish in this world if we apply the right energy to it. I believe we can change industries. We can change, in some cases, entire industries, not just a subsect, like a niche that we have in our biomed world. I think we can change healthcare because, you know, at the same time that we're doing our job, there's a nurse that's going to be impacted, you know, and then the nurse's boss is going to be impacted. And I think it starts with that energy that you infuse. It could change that person's day, which can change that person's day, and you don't know how far it can go. I'm a believer that the energy can go as far as all the way up, you know, and it can save people's lives at the same time. So no, what you said is really hitting hard for me, and that's kind of what I'm betting on winning with is the energy, you know.
Right.
And so all I can do is control my environment, right? And then so if I infuse energy in the people around me, then they can go off and do that with the people around them. I call that positive organic chatter, you know. And so if that does take hold, then it doesn't need me anymore, right? And so you've just started it. And so to your point, all you have to do is just start something, and who knows where it can go.
Right.
But we know if we don't start something, it's not going to go anywhere, right? It's just going to stay the same. And I think that's the basic point, right? So just use your energy to start something, and it has a chance. And who knows how far it can go? Like, why limit how far it can go?
Right.
I'm going to test this theory. That's my world right now.
Absolutely.
Very much that I'm in is how far can this energy go for the industry that we work for? The healthcare, patients, commerce, the whole thing. And I believe it can go really, 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 really far. And then you have another energy after you win with that energy that you can go take and apply it in a different place, maybe a higher level in a different way, to influence other people.
Correct.
But it all starts with energy. I
No,
completely
absolutely.
believe you.
Yeah, absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing how you interject that and you just watch it grow.
I know.
And sometimes, I'll just be very transparent, sometimes on our side we have the people that put out the fuse. And
Yes,
it's unfortunate.
I know, and we got to watch out. And I think to be protectors of other people's energy, that's kind of where we find our role sometimes is, hey, wait a second, that person did a great thing, and we're kind of watching the whole big picture. We either inject ourselves or we go, work with the people who we saw do that. But if they're putting out flames in front of us, how many flames are they putting out in other aspects of their lives, right? And again, I think so much comes down to just a few seconds of courage. Right? You may not be a confrontational person, but you just need a few seconds to go say, hey, I think you put that person's flame out, right? And let's talk about that because, my concern is that you might be doing that in other places that I'm not seeing that happen. And it could be really impactful. And, if it continues, like we got to have a different conversation because, we're trying to create this positive organic chatter.
Absolutely.
It won't go if you are putting it out wherever we're putting in efforts, right? And I think that happens a lot more than, people realize, and a lot of folks don't say it. There's, especially in our industry, in our little niche of biomed and imaging support, right? They don't say it sometimes. They don't tell somebody that their flame's been put out. They don't know how to say those things. And so by you modeling that, and stuff like this, I think we can kind of say, hey, look, that's not the way it's supposed to be.
Correct. And there's some of us out there, and I'll just be, this is not a recruiting tool for me, okay? I'm
totally.
genuine. We're resources.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example of this. When I was in the Bay Area too, I used to have another job when I was big enough to be a bouncer at the club on base, but nonetheless I was a bouncer. Not one time. We had the Carl Vinson. We had 2 carrier groups there. They get off, come Fred. They want to drink. They want to have a good time. Not one time did I ever have a problem with anybody because I would give them an option. You can leave. Go back to the ship, and then come back. Be able to come back tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But if you start some stuff right now, I can guarantee you're going to wind up in the break, and they're going to put you on confinement, and you're going to be able to come out for maybe a month or 2. Maybe they might suspend your rank or whatever. And they always made the right choice, no matter how drunk they were. Yeah.
Cool.
But the options are there.
Sure.
And if you give people the right option, one thing I learned as a young engineer was this, and we always had that salty person in the shop that had all the manuals and they were real gruff and nobody wanted to approach them and stuff like that. But they had valuable information. And I learned real quick as a human being, I learned to approach them going, hey, in this example, hey, Tim, can you help me out? And be vulnerable just for that moment.
Yeah.
100% of the time, they would, no matter what, they would help you.
Yeah.
Totally
agree.
And there was some times when they'd be like, well, I don't have time for you right now. Yeah. Okay, I'll come back.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you trying to help me out. Because
I
know you're there's the communication, the language has to be specific for that person that you're trying to communicate with.
Sure.
And what you want to extract from them in that moment in time.
Sure.
You could go back being your old grumpy self again, but for this time, can you tell me what is the testing point on this? Because they would have all the manuals.
Yeah.
Right. And that would be, I learned that real quick as a young person going, hey, why do I communicate with this? And it's so important because if you're aspiring to get to my level or a higher level, you're going to have to communicate to the C-suite in a certain way as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And learning that communication
Totally. Yeah.
is key.
Absolutely, it is.
And it's a skill that has to be practiced.
Yeah, and
right?
we've talked about that with some other folks in our industry on camera. We talked about the importance of us creating relationships with executives and administrators in healthcare, not just in our field, but outside of our field, in order for us to get to where we want to go as an industry, right? Everybody's going to have to figure out a strategy and have their tactics and techniques worked out for how they're going to be able to do what you just described. But I think it does come back to just that moment in time where you have that courage to, and actually the consideration to think about, what is this person going through, and how can I get to them, with all the genuine reasons why you want to get to them.
Right.
But still, then do it. Then go have the conversation. I think there's a lot of people with good hearts in our industry that would know what to say, but they won't do it because they didn't have the courage in that moment to go just do what they think would be the right thing to do.
Correct.
For that person that may be kind of a curmudgeon,
Right.
They know how to get through. Right. They just don't have the courage to do it, So how do we infuse that courage? And I think, in some cases it's harder than others, but it's worth it, because it's not just the teammate. Maybe it's the hospital CEO. You made a friend with the hospital CEO because you started developing that courage. Maybe Right to Repair would take hold. Maybe people would start paying attention to things that are important to our industry because they're friendly with you, and they would want to. I found that, Sal, in my career, that there were people who took on my cause that I never thought would, because I became a friend to them. And I didn't ask them to in some cases. Sometimes I did, but sometimes they knew what I needed. And just giving them that opportunity through creating a friendship, they would do the right things for me and go far beyond what I would ever expect. But it started with that friendship and making that connection, which I don't know we spend a lot of time on in our world, training. I don't know, we may, but day to day, like, how are we helping people know how to do that thing, to go talk to that CEO or that VP or that director or that whatever, and make that relationship a friendship.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I think also the barrier that we place on ourselves, being restricted to how we limit our, it takes a lot for you to say, number one, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
Right? Or I apologize.
Yeah.
That it takes, there's some people that can't do it.
I know.
But there's also the people that don't want to learn because they don't want to ask.
Right. That's right.
And I've never had that in my DNA. If I want to move that mountain, I got to figure out how to get either over it, go through it, or around it.
That's right. Yeah.
And some people look at the mountain, go, hey, wow, that's I just can't overcome that obstacle.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And then but to be vulnerable to say, hey, can you teach me how to do that?
Yeah.
Right? Or I don't want to say anything because I noticed that as an instructor. Nobody wanted to ask a question because, did I not pay attention? Don't be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Right now is not the time to be embarrassed.
That's right.
When you take that test, that's what I want you to achieve.
Yeah.
Because that's going to move you out of here.
Yeah, that's right.
That's going to go to the next level.
That's right.
And so they just got to practice and understand that that's still in place, no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree.
When you have AEM programs, and you have the ability and buy-in from the administrative side of the house, and you say, yeah, okay, we can speak to that, right? So then you identify, does everything need to be checked out? No. But what are your strengths as far as FTEs are concerned, as your work team, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because the right to repair, to me, has to be approached, and I think there's certain steps that need to be climbed for us to get there.
Yeah, milestones.
Right? Those milestones but because you need to, from that perspective, there needs to be strategies around the shops going, okay, we're going to see that equipment right there. We're just going to, put it on the program. Mm-hmm. Great. How does that impact your work to life environment? Is it better? Mm-hmm. Because it should. Right,
sure,
right. I mean, I mean, you're not doing that many PMs on that specific modality. Those have to be brought
Gotcha.
into the picture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because I had a candidate that came and says, I just want to work 9 to 5. I'm like, man, you know, we start off at 9 to 5, but we know that we're a hospital, we're open 24/7.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
There's going to come a point where you're going to need to stand the call. You know, we've all stood call.
Yeah.
We got to come in, and sometimes a holiday and stuff, and they're not willing to commit to that. But that's the reality
Sure.
of it, right?
Sure. Sure.
And it's the Marine Corps approach, right? Marines don't hide what it takes to be a Marine.
Yeah.
They set the expectation,
Right in front of you. Yeah.
and that's it.
Yep.
You can achieve it or not.
Yeah.
That's what we want. When you finish your crucible, that's what we want you to be,
Yeah.
a Marine,
Yep.
right? And so I think when these young technicians are in their career field, they need to really understand if it's something that they want to commit to.
Sure.
Because it translates over to, you cannot come in here restricting your commitment
Yeah.
and then expect it to achieve higher levels
Yep.
of your career.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, totally.
it-
It's not meant to be comfortable. It's meant to, you know, serve the healthcare and people. And I'll tell you that a lot of folks are striving for comfort right out of the gate at 18 to
Right.
20 years old, and they think that's what the goal is. Well, I'll submit that the more comfortable you are, the less happy you'll be in your future, right?
Correct.
Especially at this, you know, impressionable age, when you can go out and take risks and do different things that are really uncomfortable. You're never going to achieve that level of happiness. You might not even try, you know,
Correct.
because it doesn't feel comfortable to, you know, work past 5 or get out of your routine or whatever it is. Now, I don't think we need to have the old time stuff where like residents were working, you know, ungodly
No,
hours
absolutely.
and getting, you know, potentially
Absolutely.
in dangerous situations. But there is a commitment level, right? That's still, I think, I agree with you, is still necessary for somebody to strive and achieve what they want to personally. And it has nothing to do with what, like you said, you're not selling anybody on this. This is just for that individual, right?
Correct.
It's better for them to get out of their comfort zone and do stuff that they may not want to do or like to do. I mean, that's how you grow character.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My son told me, Dad, just recently with the last storm we had, and he's like, Dad, but you're the boss, you know. Why do you got to go in?
Great
Because I
question.
have to.
Yeah,
You know, I can't expect my team to respond if I don't respond.
that's
I'm
right.
here.
Yeah,
I'm here. I'm committed to
Yeah.
that. You know,
Yeah.
and if you know, I'm always amazed at. I've never been a big. It's hard for me to even with the award that I received. It's truly humbling, but that's not what I'm about.
Right.
You know what I mean?
yeah,
I just hope that to me, it's 100 times the impact to plant my synergy on somebody and inspire them to be the best. That's it.
awesome. That's awesome.
That's it. It's not about an
That's awesome.
award. And I could take that. Don't get me wrong. I'm really honored.
Yeah,
But I always practiced that in my career. You know, I mean, I didn't. My goal in combat in Afghanistan was to bring my team back. That was my number one goal. You know, the Army saw fit to give me an award and stuff like that. But I didn't. That's not what I'm about.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I brought my team home, and that's all that mattered. You
Yeah.
know, we did what we had to do, and we
Yep.
came home.
Yep.
You know, being a Biomed, you know, and the impact has been so tremendous because you'll never meet anybody that knows me that either loves, that's in between. Like, they either hate me or they love me. Because I'm passionate about what I do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think that your forum presents the ability for this younger generation to see, I have options.
yeah.
I have options.
Yeah.
You know, this doesn't have to be, you know, forever, and change your circumstances, right?
Yep.
And make your investment beneficial to
Yeah.
you. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, because I can tell you, I'm making a good salary. Children's has supported me 100% of the way, and I can speak all I can about that. But if they didn't support me and I didn't gain their trust, then it would be for nothing.
Oh,
You know
sure.
what I mean? That's they support me. But if you want to achieve a level of success in your career field, you have to put in the work.
Yeah. Yep, totally. It's a prerequisite.
Correct.
And I think that that's part of it. Like we've had Gen Zers on and they've talked about some of the things that they've seen. I believe that most of them have healthy boundaries. They know what their options are. They know how to prosper. They know what's good for them, what's going to make them happy. But some of them are lost too. And they'll say that they're lost and they're just trying to feel their way through like we were when we were young. And so my goal, my hope is that by having stories, they can either choose to, follow some of the things that we've talked about, or they can still stay on their path and go a different route. Maybe it's a technology route that they want to go, or something that's more efficient than the way that we had to do it. But I do think the environment's softening, and I think that people who take the path that you've taken, I've taken, when they make these choices, they'll find themselves ahead of the pack, and they will look and feel different than the rest of the herd, so to speak.
Correct.
And that's kind of, that's what we're kind of looking for. At least that's what I'm looking for, is people who are going to take ownership, people who are going to put in the hard work without having to be really told they're doing it because they're driven to do it. And you can't fake that. And it does take you out of your comfort zone to get there.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So I want to end with this. I want to make sure it's a discipline that I'm trying. I want to ask a question going out, and then if you would, when we're done, write down a question that you'd like to ask the next guest.
Sure.
We're interviewing somebody later in the week, a guy named Marshall Shannon, who's also in our world. He's in a dogfight with Phillips right now, he and his company. But I'll ask your question to Marshall, but I'm going to start this with you. So if you, let me do it this way. Think of your favorite book character, TV character, or movie character, and also think of yourself like, who would you like to be like, and who do you think you're most like? I mean, there might be two answers to that question, but yeah, it's more who do you relate with when it comes to your favorite TV character, book character, or movie character? Who comes to mind, and who would you like to be like?
Ooh,
it's a tough one, huh?
That's a tough one.
I know. It's stumped me too.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. I asked a good friend of mine, and he gave a response that was something I didn't expect, but it was cool because it told me something about him that I didn't know. And what it told me was that he likened himself to almost a superhero, and he told me why. And it was a great conversation. I didn't expect for it to go that way, but I watched a podcast where they did this, and it was interesting I learned something about a longtime friend who I didn't know anything about. So it was cool to ask it, which is why I want to try it with you, and then, we'll try a different question with somebody else. But yeah.
In light of yesterday, and I reflect back, I think Martin Luther King.
Oh, nice.
All right. Because
that's good.
Nothing, if you can imagine the grace, the patience, and you see the ugliness that he went through, but his message never wavered.
Yeah.
Right. And the battle that was fought, and that we, and the concepts of what it took to get to us where we are even today, as an American culture and society. And I would say his message, his character, knowing that he was walking into areas where he was hated, and his message. I would have to say him, because I think sometimes his focus was on the war, but it was winning singular battles.
Yeah, with love.
Yeah, and love and compassion.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's tough today. I could tell you, and maybe when I was reflecting, as you questioned me, I'm like that. I mean, that resonates with me even more, because I think we've lost that ability to, again, really fully listen to a different opinion,
Yeah.
right? A different mindset.
Yeah.
You know, and it just takes grace and patience and tolerance to overcome.
Yeah.
You know, he's a real good example of what that message really meant.
Yeah, something to model. Like,
Yeah.
I could see that all the stuff we've talked about,
Right.
when you said that name, it became crystal clear that made perfect sense for you to say that name. Because I can see that that's what you're trying to do now. I mean, it's funny how it came so much clearly to me, what all the stuff we just, and plus the speech that I saw you give, you really are trying to, fill the shoes and, be the real deal, right? And for people to, they can take it or leave it, but, the message is still the message from you, and it's still, your heart's in it, and you believe in what you believe in, and you're not willing to, do it. Doesn't have to be easy to get there. It's just, it's for the good of the greater good,
Right. And,
awesome.
and it's really difficult.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to rely on faith.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, faith, it's, I tell you, because there were times in Afghanistan where I didn't think we were going to make it out. And,
Wow.
The reality was we did, and we did our job. We completed our mission, but my team members will tell you that I had a lot of faith in us getting out of there and doing the best job that I could. And I know I mentioned it in the speech, but faith carried me through tremendously.
Yeah.
In that scenario, because there was times when, you just don't think that you're going to make it out of there. And so faith, I just aligned that with his message, and that's something that I would hope to aspire to achieve.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great, Saul. Great way to end this thing. I mean, bologna sandwiches and faith. Martin Luther King.
Yes, bologna sandwiches. Yeah, they never ran out of bologna.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
Good talking to you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, this is your host, Danny Mobley. Thanks for watching Humans of Healthcare. Please subscribe below for more great interviews.